Indeed, Rwanda is determined to seize the city of Goma, but our valiant patriots, supported by regional and UN peacekeepers, are determined to defend the town of Goma tooth and nail to repel the enemy, which has already been done, and why not to drive them out of the national territory?
Le silence d'une salle de classe désertée. Les écoles n'ont pas rouvert leurs portes ce vendredi à Goma, la capitale du Nord Kivu, face aux menaces qui planent.
Rwandan-backed fighters on Sunday closed in on eastern Congo's largest city of Goma, forcing thousands of civilians to flee, and grounding flights from the local airport as government forces battled to stop the rebels from seizing the city. The rapid advances by the M23 rebel movement have raised fears that the fighting could spill over into a regional, African and UN authorities said. 3 years into their current insurgency, the rebels, who the United Nations say received backing from neighboring Rwanda, now control more Congolese territory than ever before. France's United Nations ambassador called for Rwanda to withdraw its troops from Congo.
South African artillery heading towards the front line. They're among the foreign forces helping Democratic Republic of Congo's army, as are UN-sanctioned armed groups. It's lost swathes of territory in the east to the M23 armed group whose fighters are closing in on the provincial capital Goma. Rwandan forces have been widely documented fighting alongside them.
The conflict is further intensifying across South and North Kivu provinces. The displacement figures have now surged to more than 400,000 people this year alone, which is almost double the number that was reported just last week.
It's not the first time several African countries have fought each other here. Since the 1990s, 2 major wars and decades of persistent conflict have killed millions of people. At the centre of it is Congo's vast mineral wealth. Cheers as helicopters fire rockets on M23 positions. Many here have lived under the control of Rwandan and Ugandan-backed armed groups before. These people don't want it to happen again.
Goma, DRC Congo severed diplomatic ties with Rwanda as fighting between Rwanda-backed rebels and government forces raged around the key eastern city of Goma, leaving at least 13 peacekeepers and foreign soldiers dead and displacing thousands of civilians. The M23 rebel group has made significant territorial gains along the border with Rwanda in recent weeks, closing in on Goma, the provincial capital of around 2 million people, and a regional hub for security and humanitarian efforts. Congo, the United States and UN experts accuse Rwanda of backing M23, which is mainly made up of ethnic Tutsis who broke away from the Congolese army more than a decade ago. It's one of about 100 armed groups that have been vying for a foothold in the mineral-rich region, where a long-running conflict has created one of the world's largest humanitarian crises. Rwanda's government denies backing the rebels, but last year acknowledged that it has troops and missile systems in eastern Congo to safeguard its security, pointing to a buildup of Congolese forces near the border. UN experts estimate there are up to 4,000 Rwandan forces in Congo. The Congolese Foreign Ministry said late Saturday it was severing diplomatic ties with Rwanda and pulling out all diplomatic staff from the country with immediate effect. Rwanda did not comment immediately. The UN Security Council moved up an emergency meeting on the escalating violence in eastern Congo to Sunday. Congo requested the meeting, which had originally been scheduled for Monday. On Sunday morning, heavy gunfire resonated across Goma, just a few kilometers from the front line, while scores of displaced children and adults fled the Kanyaruchinya camp, one of the largest in eastern Congo, right near the Rwandan border, and headed south to Goma. "We are fleeing because we saw soldiers on the border with Rwanda throwing bombs and shooting," said Safi Shangwe, who was heading to Goma. "We are tired and we are afraid. Our children are at risk of starving," she added. Some of the displaced worried they will not be safe in Goma either. "We are going to Goma, but I heard that there are bombs in Goma too, so now we don't know where to go," said Adele Shimier. Hundreds of people attempted to flee to Rwanda through the border crossings east of Goma on Sunday, while migration officers carefully checked travel documents. "I am crossing to the other side to see if we will have a place of refuge because for the moment security in the city is not guaranteed, Mohadi Amani, a resident of Goma, told the Associated Press. Earlier in the week, the rebels seized Sake, 27 kilometers from Goma, as concerns mounted that the city could soon fall. Congo's army said Saturday it fended off an M23 offensive with the help of allied forces, including UN troops and soldiers from the Southern African Development Community Mission, also known as SAMIDRC. 2 South African peacekeepers were killed Friday, while a Uruguayan soldier was killed Saturday. A UN official told the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to speak on the matter publicly. Additionally, 3 Malawian peacekeepers were killed in eastern Congo, the United Nations in Malawi said Saturday. 7 South African soldiers from the Samidor Sea were also killed during clashes with M23 over the last 2 days, South Africa's Defense Department said. Since 2021, Congo's government and allied forces, including SAMIDRC and UN troops, have been keeping M23 away from Goma. The UN peacekeeping force, also known as MONUSCO, entered Congo more than 2 decades ago and has around 14,000 peacekeepers on the ground.
As armed rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo close in on Goma, a critical city in the east that was once a safe haven. The main hospital there already overwhelmed with the wounded, many of them civilians. This mother says she was carrying her baby when a bomb struck her group as they fled, adding, "Everyone around me was dead, crushed like meat." She and thousands of others across the Central African nation, desperate to escape the escalating violence between the Congolese military and the M23 rebel group, which the US and the United Nations say is backed by Rwanda, a claim it denies.
Rwanda's motives are complex and difficult to parse. They've deployed many troops, they've deployed surface-to-air missiles, they've deployed armored vehicles.
The roughly 8,000 M23 rebel fighters have gained ground in recent weeks, earlier this month seizing the towns of Sake and Minova, according to the UN. A man claiming to be an M23 rebel calling on the people there to join their cause, telling them their president had abandoned them in this video posted on social media. And now they're closing in on Goma, a city of 2 million right on the Rwandan border. Tonight, the Congolese army says one of its military governors was killed by the rebels just miles outside the city. Refugees there, who already fled once, fear they are running out of options. "I don't know where I am going," this man, fleeing a refugee camp outside of Goma, says. "The bombs are following us as we go." The DRC and Rwanda have been in conflict for nearly 3 decades, dating back to the Rwandan genocide. The latest escalation drawing major concern from international human rights groups.
Some 400,000 people have been displaced in North and South Kivu since the beginning of this year alone. Any such attack on Goma risks catastrophic impacts on hundreds of thousands of civilians.